Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Truth Serum. I just wanted to take a moment today because life is so busy and there's so much going on. It's almost as though whenever I sit down, there's some flow machine or some obstacle or something happening to try to take one away from their set goal. So I just wanted to take a minute today because I don't usually have a lot of time to read a non-comment or to check, what I've done in the past. But I did this Saturday and this Sunday. And it was really, really humbling and inspiring just to know that people are tuning in or at least able to make commentary, whether it be negative or positive. I really appreciate just communication in general. So to have someone be able to comment about a subject matter that isn't necessarily popular, especially if you're speaking from a perspective that not a lot of people are talking from. Things sometimes work with popularity and there's almost this general consensus as though you need to co-sign or feel the same way as a lot of your contemporaries or a lot of people that you grew up with. And based on that whole yoni egg obsession, I definitely wanted to thank people for being able to hear, even if I don't support what they deem suitable, to be able to still, listen and find some ounce of truth in what I might be saying or not. Today there's such a free-for-all. People can literally attract and live in whatever quadrant, in whatever space that they want. But, a lot of people don't necessarily take responsibility for psychological development and the fact that everybody's at a different place mentally as well. We sometimes can enjoy the same common spaces or the same music, but what drives someone to enjoy a song might be different than person B, right? So what I wanted to give thanks for was just that whole yoni egg. It wasn't necessarily, for me, I have to speak on things that, move me and that mean a lot to me. And what I did see and what I have still noticed is that, people don't really take into consideration psychological gaps and the needing to constantly feel filled or feel stuffed or feel stimulated. And that's something that we don't talk about much in our communities. If you are under 30 and you haven't had, a hysterectomy, God forbid, or any type of major trauma to your womb, there really isn't any sole purpose in being able to use external tools to strengthen that which you can on your own. So for me, it's just important to also remind people that yes, these tools exist, but again, you have to remember that a lot of people that do speak on subject matters often are almost reiterating things that they want to remind themselves of as well. So it's like that whole term, thou doth protest too much. If you find someone that's always talking about how amazing a cook they are, how wonderful their vaginas are, it's like, well, who's eating the food? And or who's next to you to be able to validate that? You don't necessarily want or are asking for that, but you don't really know, women, what your walls feel like unless you had some outer body experience that you can qualify and you can validate what your inner walls in your room feel like. It'd be great for us to all co-sign each other's vaginal wealth being the same, but again, if you are sharing and if you are separating yourself from your core being by needing external validation, by needing multitude of partners to validate yourself, then that's just something that you should check in with or not. It's like what I said the other day to a good friend of mine. It's like, well, to fight for something or to want people to be better is kind of wasteful in energy. Yes, it would be kind in terms of a meditative space that, we would all like people to be able to coexist and function from a place of abundance and self-love, but that's ludicrous. It's ludicrous to think of nowadays. It's almost like, well, those that do want to skin bleach, those that do want to change their eye color permanently, those that, and I say these things because, God has given us a certain set tools or a certain mind frame, a certain framework to exist through. But a lot of people are not comfortable with that. And in today's times, there's so much choices: plastic surgery, skin bleaching, perms, weaves. There's so much that people use to gratify and to fill spaces, whether it be that they don't feel loved enough, whether it be that they just don't like the way their hair floats. I say nowadays that there is no judgment, but those that aren't participating in all these things also should be given the freedom to not be judged. Those that don't choose to send their kids to school. It's not to say that the concept of school is not a wonderful thing, but just even based on what happened to the young lady in school the other day and her being ripped from her desk, it's yet another example of treachery and extreme fuckery being qualified and validated, or trying to make an excuse for. Rather than talk about that when it happened, what I did want to see is the blowback or the blowover, meaning how people react to different things. The main news streams. What were you saying, sweetheart? Okay, I'm sorry. He was saying I'm in the. It doesn't even matter. Point is, there's people that have had discussions about what took place, and what I did want to say is that, remember, people of color aren't going to necessarily be supported through these main channels, through CNN, through NBC, and speaking from a place as though this policeman's activity was not warranted, or this young lady didn't do something to cause this type of behavior. It's like, God forbid, people of the same color or the same ilk, have anything to say that doesn't say, hey, we don't support this fully. Because then, all the mainstreams would definitely be sending a message to other people of color that it's okay to think revolutionary. It's okay to think outside the box. But what I did notice is that a lot of people of Caucasian descent, a lot of white folk, had no problem in discussing how vile an act this was and being able to communicate fully on their voice. And what I did notice is that a lot of people of color, again, were like, well, let's take a better look at this. Well, maybe she did something to provoke, to whatever. And this is what is going to take place in mainstream venues. You're going to have people that should be able to speak freely and should support not, and those that might have a different opinion or might bring in race or class actually don't. They're actually being able to speak from a more human perspective than those that, oh, well, that black man must just be saying that because he black and he want to feel making a race thing. It's like it's beyond race at this point, Self-hate and treachery exist beyond color at this stage of the game. And a lot of what I noticed even in walking in the street is that, a lot of people that I thought, it's like we're raised to believe that with what we look like, we're supposed to be, have commonalities with, or have opinions that can be shared. And what I've realized is that, walking through the streets more than not, I'm meeting people that don't have anything in common with me except, the hue color of their skin. And that even being something that is still different because not everybody is functioning from the same vibratory space. And I say that to say, think of love outside of what we've even been conditioned to think of it coming through. Not everything that looks the same is the same, and we know this, but, it's like I've almost been surprised at the level of self-hate or the level of lack of being able to just be kind to one another based on us, kind of looking the same. And that goes to say that those that are not. It's really past that time now. The same thing, if you find yourself in situations where you almost have to bend your own belief systems or not feel as though you can vocalize what you really stand for, then take a step back and really wonder, are you lessening your space? Are you making compromises that you don't necessarily need to make in order to have, an extended family or an extended group of friends? Those things are very important. The same thing, even though a lot of people talk about this whole yoni thing, it's very unnecessary unless certain traumas have taken place that, again, will put you in a different mindset, and there would be an education, there would be information provided with all of this. And you're not getting that. You're just getting a lot of women that, speak about the wellness of womanhood and the wellness of femininity, equating to needing to be seen through certain portals, or equating to being comfortable with exposing things that are private, like your areolas or your labia. It's like, what is necessarily needed in porn nowadays? There is no, black tail and porn magazines, because all you really need to do is scroll through Tumblr, and you'll find women that are going up to bat, are freely exposing things without any pressure. There is nobody making them do these things. They're not making any monies. And even if these things lead to funds, what is of sacred anymore? What is private? It's like, unless you're sexually lib, and unless you're supporting the quote-unquote women's movement, because I can't even say it's feminist anymore, but unless you're a woman, you're guarded if you're not showing your areolas on screen. You're guarded if you don't show the inner aspects of your thighs. Or the same thing even for me. I teach yoga, but there's so much in the yoga community now, or the social yoga community, which equates to being naked, to having to do things in naked. And again, I say that to say, I live in the sun. I moved to Miami to be able to do things on the beach in my bathing suit, but that still doesn't give leeway to having to show things that are very private. There's people that are willing to do that and have the numbers and have, all the likes and all these things. But again, we have to remember that there's psychological depravity taking place in the world. There's people that aren't well anymore. There's a lot of bipolar disorders that have not been addressed. There's a lot going on in the world that no one can really take responsibility for, or even say they're a victim of. Again, you cannot constantly be purporting and perpetuating things to place up your vagina if your vagina is in good standing, if it is, pH balanced. You don't have to do all these externalized things. So just, it's like a question that I got the other day as well about, well, what can we do for young women, or for women, what do I do for my teenager? How do I teach these young women that are 12 and 13? They're having way more sex than most women, in their middle age, or in comparison, just in teaching in an after school program. These young girls have taken it to a new level. And unless you're home and you are valuing what's going on with your children, meaning you're willing to stop every day and talk about sexual health, and talk about what's of importance, to talk about what you value, to be balanced, to allow your children to see you not entertain all superfluous energy, or to allow your children to realize that, hey, I would love to send you to school, but school comes with a certain price tag. Now we don't know who's definitely influencing our children, or who is planting certain seeds of doubt in their mind, so that they do feel as though they have to go out and get love from other sources. There really is no way anymore to avoid major holes that are here for us to fall into. All we can do is communicate with our young ones, especially the daughters, especially even young men. It's like, things I teach my son, if you can love everybody, but if women don't have their own hair and aren't showing their own crown, it's going to be very difficult for them to love you unconditionally with your own. So, it's to discuss things that are sometimes uncomfortable, or that we don't necessarily think mean anything anymore, but there's so much going on the internet that people can just Google and be stimulated through, that they think is okay. And unless you're a parent that's communicating every day with your child, it's going to be very difficult to create a boundary or a bubble around them in which they still value themselves around a whole lot of people that are entertaining things that equate to not being valued. So I love you guys. I'll definitely talk to you very soon. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for all the commentary, whether negative or positive. It all means something. So don't lose your voice, and continue to love unmercifully in these days and times. Peace out.